Okay, I'll get started this morning by just welcoming everyone. Welcome to Wat Tung. Nice to see all of you guys here this morning. Welcome to everyone who's joining us online as well. Today is Wednesday, which is our group learning program. Each Sunday and Wednesday, I come together with students here in order to help you guys to learn the path to enlightenment. On Wednesdays, what I do is I guide you guys in meditation, and then I open up to any and all questions that you guys have related to the teachings of the Buddha and the path to enlightenment. On Sundays, I go chapter by chapter in this book called Developing a Life Practice, The Path That Leads to Enlightenment. This past Sunday, we were in chapter 3. We're going to be starting chapter 4 this Sunday, which is really getting into the heart of the book, where you're learning the cause of the problem, of the discontent feelings, and what the Buddha actually taught as a very first teaching. He explains what is the problem in the unenlightened mind, what is the cause of that, the elimination of that, and the path forward. So we have various classes, courses, and retreats here. And what we're doing is helping you to be able to learn the teachings, to be able to train your mind to get to this enlightened mental state. What enlightenment is where the mind is peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy. The mind no longer experiences any discontent feelings. By the time you get to enlightenment, you won't be experiencing any anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy. All these feelings and others are completely eliminated from the mind, and that comes through training of the mind. So that's why we start with meditation as part of our class. You would need much more than just meditation in order to get to enlightenment, but meditation is an important aspect of your practice, so that's why we start each class with a meditation. So I'm going to be starting with loving kindness meditation. This is a meditation that's going to help the mind to eliminate its anger and hatred and ill will, and even the lesser versions like frustration, irritation, annoyance. By the time you get to enlightenment, you won't even have the slightest dislike towards another person. Right now, you might feel like when you dislike somebody, you might think it's from somebody else, but in reality, it's from your own mind, that you have certain expectations. There's certain things you want from that person. And when they do things your way, you might say, oh, I like them. But when they're not doing things the way you want, you might say, oh, I dislike them. But this can all be eradicated. So this meditation is there to help you eliminate the anger, hatred, and ill will towards others. It also will help you to eliminate any anger and hatred towards yourself. Because sometimes you might have like an inner dialogue that's negative or degrading or disparaging towards yourself. And this can all be eliminated, where you can have positive and uplifted thoughts, where you don't have that degrading and disparaging aspect looking towards yourself in a negative way. So the way that we start this meditation is we start with some chanting to ease into the meditation. And if you would like to see these chants, they're on a laminated sheet over there on the table. You're welcome to help yourself to those laminated sheets. You'll see the chants that we do. As you guys are getting these chants, I'll just share with you guys that there's no rites, rituals, ceremonies, and worship in the teachings of the Buddha. These chants aren't prayer or anything like that. There's nothing mystical or magical in the teachings of the Buddha. What we're doing here with these chants is we're easing the mind into meditation and actually getting more benefit out of the meditation itself. During the lifetime of the Buddha, they only used chanting as a way to commit the teachings to memory. So every 2 weeks, his students would come together and they would recite his teachings orally in order to be able to commit the teachings to memory. So these chants, there's nothing mystical or magical about them. It's not prayer or worship or anything like that. If you read the English translations, you're going to see a lot of appreciation and gratitude and respect towards the Buddha. And because of that, I don't even think the Buddha created these chants. They were probably created by his students, either during his life or after his death, because the Buddha doesn't go around saying, here, students, chant these chants to me out of respect for me. That's not the way that any of this works. The Buddha would have eliminated his ego and his arrogance and his pride and his boastfulness and putting himself above others. He would have just considered himself to be equal, just like everybody else. But if you learn from a teacher of how to move your mind from that anger and sadness and frustration and all those other discontent feelings to the peace and the joy that is the enlightened mental state, and this teacher didn't want anything from you or expect anything from you, you might have a lot of gratitude and appreciation and respect for that person too. So his students, during his life and after his death, have a lot of respect for the Buddha. So this is why I suspect that these chants were actually created by other people. I do have a lot of respect and appreciation for the Buddha. I chant these chants out of respect for the Buddha, but also because it helps to ease the mind into meditation, and you get more benefit out of the meditation itself. It helps to bring awareness to the mind and awareness to the breath so that you can be getting more benefit out of the meditation. So if you'd like to chant along, you're more than welcome to. There's various courses and different programs where I teach students how to do the chanting, but today we're just going to do the chanting, and you guys are welcome to join along if you like. After the chanting, you're going to hear me giving you some guidance on breathing mindfulness meditation. There's a short little period prior to the loving kindness meditation where we're going to be doing some breathing mindfulness meditation, just focusing on the breath. And when the mind moves off the breath, we'll be cutting that off, letting it go, and bringing the mind back to the breath. Then we're going to move into the meditation of loving kindness. And you hear me saying these affirmations out loud. And as you hear those, I'll be saying them on the out breath. And when you hear them, you can repeat them in your mind on your out breath. You're going to hear things like, may I be peaceful, meaning this being who you are. May I be safe. May I be well. May I be free of all discontentedness and the suffering that it causes. You hear me say things, may mom and dad be peaceful, safe, well, and free of discontentedness. When you're doing this meditation, it's not trying to change mom and dad. You're not invoking some special power to come and change mom and dad. Instead, what you're doing is you're cultivating in your own mind to have love and kindness towards your parents or towards other beings that we do in our meditation. We're not trying to change other people in our meditation. That's not actually possible. What you're doing is essentially rewiring your mind so that you can be more loving and kind when you're around these people. Because when you're bitter and harsh and hostile in your relationships, and that's what you're putting out, that's what's going to come back to you. So if you can train your mind and transform your mind to be more loving and kind in all situations, then when you're around individuals, you can be loving and kind. And now through your intention, speech, and actions, being loving and kind, this is what will come back to you more and more. But if you're being bitter and harsh and hostile in your relationships, then you can see that that's what's coming back to you in those relationships. If you would like to change your relationships, you're going to need to change your own mind so that now when you change your own mind, you can function differently in these relationships. And that's what this meditation is going to do for you. It's essentially like filling up your gas tank so that you can go out into the world and be more loving and kind with the people around you. So we're going to be doing that loving kindness meditation in the middle. Then we're going to be going back to breathing mindfulness meditation, and then we'll go back to the chanting. It's kind of like a loving kindness sandwich where you've got loving kindness in the middle, and then the lettuce and tomato is like the breathing mindfulness meditation, and then the chanting is like the bread holding it all together. You guys are welcome to come in. We have plenty of space all over here. It's just that the door got blocked by the way that we kind of configured today, but we got plenty of space here. You're welcome to come in. Okay, so this is our meditation that we're going to be easing into the meditation with chanting, then breathing mindfulness, loving kindness, back to breathing mindfulness, and then back to the chanting. In terms of your body positioning for meditation, there's 4 positions that the Buddha taught. He taught seated, lying, standing, and walking. And at different times in your journey to enlightenment, you would need to learn these different positions because they're beneficial for different reasons. But usually when people are first starting out, they're starting out with the seated position. So I'll give you guys a little bit of guidance on the seated position just to help you guys with this. The seated position, you're usually sitting on the floor or in a chair, or maybe on a bench or a sofa. Maybe if you're at home, you're maybe on in a wheelchair or something like this. You can sit however you're comfortable. There's not just one fixed way to actually sit. So what I'm going to share with you is just guidance to maybe give you some ideas of things that you could do in order to be able to get comfortable. So if you're on the floor, you might sit with some cushions under your rear. This will kind of soften your seat a bit. So then just cross your legs lightly. If you have your legs real tight, this can impede the circulation and it can cause pain in the lower body and make it difficult for you to meditate. So if you just lightly cross your legs, that's usually best. Some people like to put their legs off the mat. This gets the hips up in the air and it lessens the angle at the hips, the knees, and the ankles. And some people like to do it this way, so it allows circulation to flow. So if that's comfortable for you, you could use that. The Buddha put his right hand over his left with his thumbs together, and he put this into his lap. So if you'd like that, you could use it. But again, it's not about everyone doing it exactly the same way. Some people like to put their palms on their thighs or their knees. Maybe put your palms up or rest your hands comfortably in your lap. It's whatever's comfortable for you. You find whatever feels nice and comfortable for you. And then if you need to adjust at any time during your meditation, feel free to adjust to maintain the comfort of the body. You're not interested in the body being painful, but you're not interested in being luxurious either. It should be in the middle where it's nice and comfortable. And then the same thing for anybody who's in a chair. Or maybe if you're at home, you're on a sofa or a bench or a wheelchair, you like to maybe just put your feet flat on the floor or lightly crossed at the ankles. There's many different options there. I'm in a chair here with my legs crossed, so you could really sit however you're comfortable. And then the same thing with the hands and arms. You can just put them wherever you're comfortable. The upper body should be erect. This keeps the mind attentive and alert during the meditation. With your sternum up and your shoulders back, it'll not only keep your mind attentive and alert, but it'll make it easy for you to breathe in and out through the nose. Because meditation is a dedicated, active, purposeful training session where you're eliminating certain unwholesome qualities from your mind and you're cultivating certain wholesome qualities in your mind. So having your mind attentive and alert during the meditation is going to be able to help you to accomplish that, where you can eliminate certain unwholesome qualities and arise certain wholesome qualities. Meditation is kind of like taking your mind to the gym where you're exercising it and you're trying to develop it to be more strong and more disciplined. So that's what we're doing during the meditation. So you'd like you to be attentive and alert during the meditation. So again, I'm going to ease us into the meditation with chanting. And if you'd like to join along, feel free to join along. And then I'm going to come back in with some guidance. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Bhutang Bhagavanang Apivateyami Savakato Bhagavata Tammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Bhagavato Sāvaka Saṅkho Saṅghang Namami Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Iti piso Bhagava Arahang Samma Sambuddho Vicacaranang Sammuno Sakato Rokavitu Anutero Purisa Dhamma Sati Satatawap Manusanang Bhutto Bhagavati. Okay, with the lower body and hands and arms comfortable, and the upper body erect, just close the eyes and start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Here you're just looking to establish the breath. A nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. Not forced or controlled, just a gradual inhale through the nose, experiencing the full breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Your breath may not match up with the guidance that I'm providing, and that's okay. This is your practice. I'm just here for guidance. You can use this voice as a reminder that whenever you get to the next inhale, breathe in gradually through the nose, developing a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the breath well established, start fixating the mind on the breath, either the sound of the breath coming into the nose or the sensation of air moving over the skin into the nose. The breath is the present moment. Fixate the mind on the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the mind fixated on the breath, whenever you notice that it moves off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. No need to observe the thought, label it, judge it, analyze it, or even try to figure out where it's coming from. Whenever you notice that the mind is moved off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. I'm going to be quiet now and let you do this work of focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. Then I'll be back with more guidance on loving kindness meditation. You have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. This is your time to focus on the breath. Breathing in and out. Continuing to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. Repeat these affirmations in the mind on the out breath. May I be peaceful. May I be safe. May I be well. May I be free of all discontentedness in the suffering that it causes. May Mom and Dad be peaceful. May they be safe. May they be well. May they be free of all discontentedness in the suffering that it causes. May my family, friends, co-workers, and neighbors all be peaceful. May they be safe. May they be well. May they be free of all discontentedness in the suffering that it causes. May all those who have harmed me be peaceful. May they be safe. May they be well. May they be free of all discontentedness in the suffering that it causes. May all those who I have harmed be peaceful. May they be safe. May they be well. May they be free of all discontentedness in the suffering that it causes. May all beings, wherever they reside, be peaceful. May all beings be safe. May all beings be well. May all beings be free of discontentedness in the suffering that it causes. Now return back to breathing mindfulness meditation, focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. Breathing in and out. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Mahakawa Photang Mahakavanang Apivateyami Savakato Mahakavata Tammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Mahakavato Savaka Sangho Sanghang Namami นะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสมหะคะวะอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิชาจารณังสัมมุโนสกขาโตโรกาวิตุอนุเตโรปุริสาดามาสติสัตตาตาวามานุสรังโพโตภาควาติ Okay, if you guys would like to slowly make your way out of meditation. Okay, once again, welcome to everyone here. Nice to see all of you guys this morning. Welcome to everyone joining us online as well. This is our temporary classroom. We moved up here just recently because they're doing some work downstairs to refurbish our classroom and make it better for you guys. So thank you guys for joining us here in our temporary classroom. To help you guys feel even more comfortable, I'd like to let you know about a couple of things so that you'll know about the space while you're here. Is we have some bathrooms up here. If you'd like to use the restroom at any point, help yourself. There's a bathroom here, this first door. And then the very last door outside the glass doors, as you make your way up the stairs, that very last door, that's a bathroom as well. Feel free to use the restrooms as you like. There's even restrooms outside. If you go out to the parking lot, you'll see signs that'll take you around to the main temple bathroom. So you're welcome to use any of these at any time. We even have refreshments over here. At least we have the space over here. It looks like our water has gotten low. We've got some more water downstairs, but feel free to help yourself to anything over here on these tables over here. That's all provided to you by our students. You can help yourself and get any refreshments that you like while you're here. So as I mentioned, the meditations that we do as part of the path to enlightenment is to train your own mind. This is called loving kindness meditation. This is a meditation that's there to help you transform your mind, because right now when something happens that you disagree with and that you don't like, you might go down this well-worn path of anger. You might have this hostility, this bitterness, and this resentment. But what's causing the mind to experience these feelings, it's not the outside world. You might think that it's your mom or dad that's making you angry, or your brothers and sisters, or your coworkers, or your life partner, or your children, or something like this. But it's not the outside world that's causing these feelings. It's actually what's going on within your own mind. And this is why you can actually get to the peace and the joy that is the enlightened mind, where you no longer experience any anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy. All these discontent feelings and others can be completely eliminated from the mind. You need to know what's causing these feelings so that then you can actually eliminate them. But as long as you keep thinking that it's something external that's causing these feelings, you'll never actually eliminate them from the mind. You'll keep experiencing anger and frustration and all these other feelings over and over in your mind all the time throughout the rest of your life. So you can get to the point where you actually transform your mind, where it's no longer experiencing any of these discontent feelings. And that comes through training the mind. That's what the path to enlightenment is to train the actual mind. So the teachings of the Buddha, they're not a bunch of beliefs. You're not believing a bunch of things and hoping something good happens when you die. It's not right rites and rituals and ceremonies and worship. Even if you've been exposed to these kinds of things, maybe even in a Buddhist temple, and people are saying that this is what Buddhist people do, is rites, rituals, ceremonies, and worship, or if they've been taught different beliefs, this isn't actually part of what the Buddha taught. Here, what we do is we help you guys to learn the teachings of the Buddha based on his original words and what he actually taught. We have a whole book series here. It's 13 books. Normally we have it on a bookshelf downstairs, but we just put it up here on the floor for now because we're in our temporary classroom. But you can come and see his teachings either here, or you can get these books online for free. You can download them for free. You can take them and go print them if you'd like. You can get versions here by just reimbursing us for the printing cost. You can order them on Amazon. You can see what did the Buddha actually teach. And he taught you to train your mind. He taught you to cultivate wisdom. He taught you to come in and examine and investigate his teachings. And by you learning and examining his teachings, you can reflect on them to independently verify whether they're true or they're false. And then you can practice his teachings, integrating them into your day-to-day life and training your mind and uprooting the causes and conditions that are producing these discontent feelings. I mentioned that this Sunday, I'm going to be teaching the very first teaching of the Buddha, which is called the Four Noble Truths. You guys are welcome to come in. We got plenty of space up here. I'm going to be teaching the very first teaching of the Buddha, which is called the Four Noble Truths. This is where you learn the problem in the mind, the cause of the problem, the elimination of it, and the path forward. Because if you didn't understand what was actually causing the problem in the mind, you wouldn't actually be able to solve it. So what's causing these discontent feelings is that the mind is craving permanence. It's wanting things to be a certain way. It's having expectations and wants. And if things happen the way you want, then you get happy or excited. But if things aren't happening the way you want, then you get angry or frustrated or sad or some other discontent feeling. The mind's craving this permanence. And the way that you can see the truth for yourself is think about situations where you've been angry or sad or frustrated. Maybe you were with a boyfriend or girlfriend. Maybe when you guys first got together, you were so happy. You were so excited. You had this new person in your life that was showing you affection. You guys were spending time together. Maybe you guys were going out to the movies. You were having conversations. You were going to the park. Maybe you were going out to dinner. Maybe you were having intimate contact. Maybe you were having sexual contact, and you felt so much pleasure when you guys first got together. But then over time, you started putting expectations on this person, and this person started putting expectations on you and wanting you to do things a certain way. And you started wanting them to do things a certain way. And when they did things your way, you got happy. But when they did things a different way that you didn't want them to do, you might have gotten angry or sad or frustrated. And eventually you guys broke up and you ended the relationship. And now you might have been lonely. You might have been bored. You might have been missing this person. You might have been frustrated and angry. This wasn't from the love. Sometimes people think it's love that's causing these feelings. It's not love that's causing you to be frustrated and angry with this other person. What it is the mind's craving permanence. It's wanting this relationship to be permanent, when in reality, this relationship is impermanent. As long as you think that this relationship is permanent, then when you're holding on to this relationship, when it's over, you'll be angry or sad or frustrated or lonely or bored. Everything around you is impermanent. It's constantly changing, right? You see people are coming and going in and out of our classroom. This is impermanence. This is just change, right? Not everybody that came is going to stay here the whole time. And now we've even had a lot more people coming all through the morning. We've been having people come in. This is just change, right? But if we crave for things to be a certain way, if we want things to be permanent, then when we experience impermanence, the mind doesn't like that. It doesn't like change. Think about the times when you changed jobs, when you changed where you live, where your relationships were changing. This was the times that you were struggling the most in your life, when you were experiencing change, because the mind craves permanence in the unenlightened state. It hasn't been trained to understand the universal truth of impermanence. It hasn't been trained to let go. Instead, it holds on. So you might have held on to that boyfriend or girlfriend for whatever amount of time. You might have been angry and lonely and bored for a period of time. But at some point after the relationship, you might have said, you know what? If he wants to be with somebody else, so be it. You let him go. Or if she wants to move to another part of the world, so be it. And you let her go, right? And when you let go, that's when the mind regained its peace and its joy. So this breathing mindfulness meditation that we just did, it's not training your mind to eliminate your thoughts. Sometimes people think that. So if you found it really hard to focus on the breath, this is very normal, particularly when you're first getting started, because the mind's not very disciplined as you're first training your mind. So if your mind kept moving off your breath, that's completely normal when you're first getting started. In fact, even when you're enlightened, your mind's going to move off the breath occasionally, right? The difference is that in the unenlightened state, you might have lots of thoughts. You might have bombardment of thoughts. It might have been like thought. Or you might have had a thought and you indulged in that thought and followed it for a period of time before you decided, oh yeah, that's right, I'm meditating. Let me bring my mind back to the breath, right? So even an enlightened being, their mind's going to move off the breath. But the difference is that they're going to notice it right away, and they're going to cut it off and let it go and bring the mind back to the breath very easily. And then there's going to be this long period of time where their mind's quieted and stilled, right? But then they're going to have another thought, right? So if you found this to be challenging, it's not because you're bad at meditation. It's just because your mind's untrained. You just haven't trained it enough. If this was really challenging for your mind, that's wonderful. Your mind's challenged in this situation. It's having to let go, and it doesn't know how to do that. And the same thing with the loving kindness meditation. If you had challenges with that, that's really helpful, really beneficial for your mind. Sometimes when we meet with a challenge, you might want to run away from it. But if you keep running away from the challenges in your life, you'll never cultivate the wisdom that you need in order to face that challenge and overcome it. One of the teachings that the Buddha shares is he says, do not shrink back from the struggle. Do not shrink back from the struggle. Because if you shrink back, if you run away from the struggle, then you never get the opportunity to cultivate wisdom to overcome that struggle. That means that when that situation occurs again, you're just going to struggle again and again and again. And if you just keep running away from the challenges and struggles in your life, you never cultivate wisdom to be able to overcome the struggles. So what the Buddha teaches you to do is face the challenges and face the struggles. So instead of running away, turn around and walk towards it. And that's where you cultivate wisdom. And you can reach out to someone like me, like a teacher, and say, hey, I'm having this particular challenge in my life. What should I do? What would be the best way to address this? How can I handle it? And that's where having a teacher involved in your life is really helpful, because you wouldn't be able to get to enlightenment on your own without the help of any teachers or any guides. You're going to need help along the way. So a teacher is kind of like a tour guide. We're pointing out for you the things that you need to learn, and it's you that's doing the work to be able to decide to learn. But you're going to be challenged. You're going to have struggles, right? That's what the mind's doing when you're angry and you're sad and you're frustrated. The mind's struggling in the world because it doesn't understand these natural laws that the Buddha taught. And as long as you're lacking wisdom of these natural laws, you'll continue to experience those struggles. But when you turn around and you walk towards the struggle and you face it, you can cultivate the wisdom so the very next time that thing occurs, hey, you know how to solve it. You know how to deal with it. No big deal. I've seen this before. I know how to deal with this. Let me just overcome that. But if you run away from it, you'll never get an opportunity to be able to cultivate the wisdom that you need to overcome it. So the teachings of the Buddha are here to be able to provide you guidance and cultivate wisdom to be able to make wiser and wiser decisions in your life. This is referred to as the natural laws of existence. That's what the Buddha taught. He didn't teach a bunch of beliefs or rules or commandments or anything like that. He's teaching you about how the natural world works. He's not explaining to you the way the world should be. He's explaining to you the way the world is. And when you understand the way the world is, then you can navigate the world more peacefully. When you have wisdom of the natural laws in the world around you, you'll be able to navigate that world more peacefully. It's just like when we were growing up, we didn't understand the natural law of gravity. So we struggled and we had difficulties. We fell down, we hurt ourselves, we broke our toys, we had all kinds of difficulties. And we cried and we cried. But over time, we gained wisdom of this natural law of gravity, and now we don't struggle with it anymore. We can ride bicycles, we can climb ladders, we can get on airplanes, we can do all these things with ease because we awoke to that wisdom. We gained wisdom of this natural law. And now we can navigate the world peacefully with this natural law of gravity. But there's other natural laws that your mind hasn't yet been exposed to. If you're experiencing anger and sadness and frustration and these other feelings, there's just certain wisdom that you don't have right now that you need to be able to cultivate. And that's what the teachings of the Buddha are there for you to do, is cultivate cultivate wisdom about these natural laws. And as you do so, your mind cultivating this wisdom, you awaken. That's what we mean when we say we awaken to enlightenment, is you're awakening to wisdom. You're gaining this wisdom to now train your mind and navigate the world more peacefully, making wiser and wiser decisions through your individual decisions that you make each day. Because when you make wise decisions, you will experience wholesome results, or wholesome karma. Some people refer to it as karma, but the word in the original teachings of the Buddha is the word karma, because this is the Pali language. The Pali language uses the word karma. What this is referring to is this natural law of cause and effect, or action and result. And when we make wise decisions, we'll experience wholesome results. And when we make unwise decisions, we will experience unwholesome results. So the natural law of karma, it's not mystical or magical. It's not punishments and rewards. It's not about who's at fault or who's to blame. It's about understanding that when we make wise decisions, that we'll experience these wholesome results, and when we make unwise decisions, we'll experience unwholesome results. So this natural law is there almost like an unbiased teacher, showing us at every moment when we're making wise decisions and when we're making unwise decisions. There's no being that's overseeing this natural law. It's just cause and effect, or action and result. And you can get to the point where you awaken to this natural law and you have full wisdom of this natural law, and now you can make wiser and wiser decisions that are leading to wholesome results in your life. And you'll experience more and more wholesome results, or wholesome karma, in your life. So what we do on Wednesdays is I just kind of share a little bit of guidance with you like this, and then I just open up to any and all questions that you guys have. Typically, I'm teaching maybe 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes and opening up to questions, and then another 15, 20, 30 minutes and opening up to questions. But on Wednesdays, I just do a little bit of meditation, just a little bit of teaching, and then I just open up to anything you guys would like to ask me, whether it's related to Buddhism or the path to enlightenment or Thailand or something about your personal life or something you're challenged with. If you'd like to ask any and all questions, you can ask those. The way that you ask questions here at the temple is we have these microphones in the white bowl in front of the camera. If you could get a microphone, there's a gray button that you just press it and the lights will come on. You just hold it up to your chin and then we'll be able to hear you here at the temple, and they'll be able to hear you online as well. If you talked without a microphone here, they wouldn't be able to hear you online. And you can take these microphones back to your seat and just keep it with you, because you might have more than one question, or someone around you might have a question, and you can just share your microphone with the other people around you. And then for those of you guys that are online, you can ask questions by putting that into Facebook, YouTube, or in Zoom in the comment section. I'll be able to see that and answer your question. Or if you're in Zoom, you can electronically raise your hand and ask any and all questions by just unmuting your microphone. So is there anybody that would like to ask a question, anything that you would like to discuss, anything that you would like to know? Feel free to get a microphone here, and then those of you guys online, you can ask questions as well. Looks like Josh has a question.
Could you talk a little bit on working with aversions or fears?
Sure. Aversions, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So first, let me just explain what an aversion is for anybody who's not sure or hasn't learned about this before. So what the mind does is, in the unenlightened state, you have craving, desire, attachment. This is the mind's longing, yearning, chasing after the objects of your affection. If you get what you want, you get happy, you get excited, you get elated. Think back to when you were a child and you were asked mom and dad for chocolate or ice cream. If they gave you the chocolate and ice cream, you got so happy and you got so excited. But if they said, no, you can't have chocolate and ice cream today, you're the worst mommy and daddy ever, right? Because we weren't getting what we wanted, which was this chocolate and ice cream. It wasn't mom and dad that was causing our anger. It was our cravings, because we can't get chocolate and ice cream permanently. We can't get it every single day. So when we got what we wanted, which was the ice cream, we got happy. But when we didn't get what we wanted, we got angry or sad or frustrated. The same thing's happening, like if your bank account balance is here, you'll be really happy. But then when it goes here, you'll be sad or frustrated, right? Or if it's sunny outside, you might be happy, but then when it rains, you might be sad or frustrated or agitated. This is how you can see that it's not other people causing you to be angry. You can look at your own life and you can see that in situations where your mind was craving permanence, you got angry, you got frustrated when you didn't get what you wanted. You can look at a situation either happened today or yesterday or last week where you wanted something. And if you would have got what you wanted, you would have been happy. But because you didn't get what you wanted or expected, then your mind became angry and frustrated. And when you become angry and frustrated and agitated, there's kind of some things that your mind will do with the lack of wisdom. When you think that it's somebody else or something external that's causing these discontent feelings, you'll tend to push these things away. This is called aversion. You will push a person away, or you will push a situation away. And the mind thinks that this is going to solve the problem. So you might have actually been pushing people away in your life. You might have pushed away friends or family members or other people like this. And you can see that it didn't actually solve the problem because you keep getting angry, you keep getting annoyed, you keep getting frustrated over and over and over again. If this person or this situation was the actual problem, when you pushed it away, you would have been peaceful, you would have been joyful, but you weren't. You still got agitated, you still got annoyed. So having aversion where you're pushing something away, this is to misunderstand the problem. This is to not understand what the true cause of the problem is, which is within your own mind. The mind's perceiving the problem as being mom or dad or brother or sister, whoever, and you think that if I push them away out of my life, then it'll solve the problem, but it doesn't. That's why you still get angry and irritated and annoyed. Or the other thing you might do is you might be bitter and harsh and hostile towards people through your intentions, your speech, and your actions. This is almost like an animal growling and roaring at another animal and trying to fear this being into doing things your way. I'm sure you've done that. We all have, right? When you're in the unenlightened state, you're going to be irritated and annoyed. You're going to falsely think the problem is external. So you think the way to solve that is through your intentions, speech, and actions, being bitter, harsh, and hostile towards others. And this is like almost trying to fear this person into doing things your way. The mind thinks if I can just get them to do things my way, everything will be perfect. But it's an impermanent world. Not everybody's going to do things your way. Or the third thing you might do is you might put your expectations on people. You might try to pressure them into doing things your way. You might try to control them into doing things your way. This is the mind putting expectations on others and trying to get everyone to do things your way. But the problem is that there's 8 billion people in the world. You can't get 8 billion people to do things your way. It's just not possible. It's an impermanent world. So some people are going to do things your way. Some people aren't, right? Because everybody makes different decisions. This is all impermanence. But the mind is craving permanence. We want everybody to do things a certain way. And when you get things your way, you'll get happy. But when you don't get things your way, you'll get angry or sad or frustrated. So Josh is asking about this aversion. These are these 3 different things that the unenlightened mind does when it's experiencing the anger or the painful feelings. It's trying to get back to the pleasant feelings, but it doesn't know how, because of its lack of wisdom. The mind thinks the way to get to those pleasant feelings is to push people away, be bitter, harsh, and hostile, or put my expectations on people. But in this situation, you can't live harmoniously with all beings. You can only live with people who do things your way. But nobody's going to do things your way all the time. It's just not possible. You're the only one who's going to make decisions your way. So as long as your mind is craving for others to be a certain way, you're going to get to a point where somebody does something you disagree with, and you'll either push them away, you'll be bitter, harsh, and hostile with them, or you'll put expectations on them. This is why as you age, you might have noticed that there's fewer and fewer and fewer people that you spend time with. When we were children, we didn't have all these expectations. We didn't have all these wants. We could go to the playground and we could just play with anybody. We weren't judging other people, right? We just walked in at 6 years old, 8 years old. We just played with everybody. But as you've aged, your mind has gotten these expectations, these certain things that you want other people to do. And you might have noticed that the number of people you spend time with has become fewer and fewer and fewer and fewer. Because people can't do things your way all the time. So as long as you don't understand what the real problem is, that's the first thing to help with aversion, is understand what the real problem is within your own mind. Because as long as you keep perceiving the problem as external, you're going to keep wanting to push people away, or you're going to keep wanting to push the situation away. So where you're noticing that you're pushing things away, the way to work with this skillfully is to understand what the real problem is. The real problem is within your own mind, that it's the craving, the desire, the attachment, the wants, and the expectations. And in these situations, you would like to put your mind in this situation in order to train it to let go. And we're talking about situations that are not harmful, right? If somebody was physically abusing you or sexually abusing you, you're not interested in putting yourself in that situation. But let's just say, let's take something simple. Let's say that, what was your example? Christmas. Okay. Yeah, I remember now. Josh has this aversion to Christmas where when he goes to the mall and he sees, I can say this, right? Yeah. When he sees lights and Christmas trees and all this stuff, it's like, I guess you get painful feelings, right? Okay. And he wants to push all this away, right? And I think last time you went to Vietnam to you went to the mall. Yeah. You were trying to get away from it, right? He was trying to get out of Thailand and get away from the Christmas stuff. So that's what the mind does, is it thinks that this is going to solve the problem. But what you would like to do in that situation is you actually like to put the mind in that situation. So you would like to go to the mall. You would like to listen to Christmas carols. You would like to sit there and just look at it and just be like, okay, well, if that's what those people like and that's what they enjoy, okay, wonderful for them. But this is where you get to confront it on your terms. Right? Where you get to go to the mall, you get to walk around. If you're noticing the frustration building, leave, right? Just leave. And now you leave for a couple of days or a week or so, and then you come back again and you do it again until you get to the point where you've exposed the mind to this aversion. And eventually it's like, yep, there's going to be Christmas carols there. There's going to be Christmas lights. There's going to be trees. And that's all fine. That's completely fine. And your mind doesn't have any frustration, because if you keep avoiding the mall, you're not actually solving the problem, because the craving is still in the mind. I want it this way, and I can only be happy when I get it this way. When it's this way, I don't feel comfortable. So you'd like to put the mind in that situation until it gets more and more comfortable. And in modern psychology, I think they call this exposure therapy, where you're exposing the mind to the thing that it doesn't want and that it's averse to. And now when you expose it to that, you train the mind to be comfortable with it. And you do this slowly but surely through gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress. It's not going to be just one time and the mind lets go, because you're trying to show the mind, hey, you're not going to get this permanence. The permanence your mind's craving is, I want things to be non-Christmas. That's the craving that you have. And you're showing the mind like, hey, you're not going to get that. You're going to get this over here. You're going to get some Christmas stuff sometimes, and that's okay. And you can maintain your peacefulness. You can maintain your joy regardless of what's going on in the outside world. Mm-hmm. I saw some more microphones. Yeah.
I have a question. In the universal truth of non-self, mm-hmm. So there basically is the law, and then yet in the loving kindness meditation you use I am. Can you explain?
Sure. So to get to the point where you experience the realization of non-self, you need to be able to not associate with this body or this mind as who you are, right? You already know that. For the rest of you guys, so you guys understand the answer here, is that the mind in the unenlightened state is clinging to your self-image and your self-identity, wanting things to be a certain way, wanting to be perceived by others in a certain way. So if you spill spaghetti sauce on your clothing and you're in a social situation, you might be embarrassed. That's because your mind's clinging to this body, wanting it to be a certain way and wanting to be perceived by others a certain way. If you see a pimple or a mole or a wrinkle or a gray hair, you get a little extra fat here or there, you might feel uncomfortable in this situation because you're wanting others to perceive this body in a certain way. And then there's a certain self-identity in the mind, where the mind might be clinging to, I am Chinese, or I am American, or I am Lithuanian, or I am Brazilian, or I am Spanish. There can be any number of I am in the mind. Your culture, your ethnicity, your sexual orientation, your nationality, your job or occupation. And as long as you cling to that as who you are, when you have agreeable things that are happening, you'll feel happy. But when you have disagreeable things, then you'll feel angry or sad or frustrated. So like if you cling to the identity of I am Chinese or I am American or something like this, and you at a restaurant and 2 tables over, somebody says, all Americans are lovely and kind and friendly and warm. They're talking about me, because you have that identity in your mind. But then if 2 tables over, they're talking in a degrading and disparaging way, now you're going to be frustrated or agitated because your mind's clinging to this identity. So what we teach you is that there is no self. This body isn't you, and this mind isn't you. And you need to be able to eliminate this I am from the mind, right? So this is what Galit is asking about, because the English language is basically unfitting to 100% describe what we're experiencing. When you say, I am hungry, I am not hungry because there's no I here. True reality is the body needs food. That's the true reality, is the body needs food. But what the mind's going to do, because of our language and the way we've been taught and the way the mind conforms, is we say, I am hungry. Or if you have a headache, you might say, I have a headache. Well, I don't have a headache. The true reality is the head hurts. That's what's truly going on, is the head hurts, right? So what we do is we learn how to speak in ways and think in ways that this I is so disassociated with, that you don't hold on to this I. So what Galit is asking is, in this loving kindness meditation, we say things like, may I be peaceful. May I be safe. Okay. So you need to ultimately get to the point where you understand that there is no I here. And you go through a period of time, maybe 6 months, even a year, where you start to think of the body needs food. You don't think about it as I am hungry. You just think, the body needs food. Let me get some food. Or instead of like, I'm going to my house, I'm going to the house, right? And you start purging that. And in probably a good 95, 98% of the cases, you can do that where you don't think that way. But there's some rare situations where you can't really say anything else other than I or my, right? You've heard me say examples of that. So it's a matter of being able to say certain things, but your mind doesn't think that way. So when I say this is my son Bailan, I can introduce him that way because that's the easiest way to introduce him. But I know he's not mine. He doesn't belong to me. So the mind's been trained to not think of him as mine. So in this meditation, if you would like to use I, you need to be able to understand what you're talking about is this being. And some people do it that way. They might say, may this being be peaceful. May this being be safe. Or some people might use the name, like may Galit be peaceful. May Galit be safe. Because in the Thai language, which was only created in the last, I think, 300 years or so, the language that they speak now, Buddhism's been here for 800 to 1200 years. So their language, when they were forming their language, was built around Buddhism. So when you speak Thai, if any of you guys speak Thai, you know this, that you tend to speak in the third person. So you don't say, I am hungry in Thai. You say, David is hungry. Or when my son comes home from school, I don't say, how was your day at school? I say, how was Bailan's day at school? You speak in the third person, right? So their language has been informed by Buddhist teachings and what it is that you're doing to train your mind. But the English language hasn't really been created and structured that way. So it's a matter of learning how to disassociate yourself with this I as much as possible. But then in some rare situations, you're going to still need to use it. But you just need to make sure you know in the mind there's a switch where it's like, okay, I'm talking about I here, but you know that there's no I here. But usually what you do for a good 6 months to a year is you try as much as possible to purge that from your vocabulary. But then eventually you might just go back to it after you know you've realized non-self, because it's just easier to say, hey guys, I'm hungry. Would you like to go to eat some food? Right? So this is kind of like a way you might choose to do it. Mm-hmm.
Oh, one more question.
Mm-hmm.
Can you touch a little bit on aversion versus ego?
So the ego can be involved in your aversion, right? If your ego gets triggered, the ego is like your arrogance, your pride, you're judging other people, measuring and comparing, putting yourself above people or putting yourself below people. An enlightened being doesn't do this. If you're judging other people and you're looking down on them and you're thinking like they're bad and I'm good and they shouldn't be doing that and I'm doing it right and they're doing it wrong. This is the mind judging. So sometimes your ego can get triggered, and then because of that you feel painful feelings and you might push people away. But there is the ability to walk away from a relationship without it being aversion. The difference here, I know you didn't ask this question, but I'll share this with you, is that in the unenlightened state, when you have what's called wrong view, you will associate the painful feelings you're having with something external, typically another person or another situation. And then you'll have that aversion where you'll push it away thinking that's going to solve the problem, but it doesn't because you still have the craving. But there are situations where you might be in a relationship and you're like, whoa, and you might be feeling painful feelings and you might not appreciate this and you might not feel good about these painful feelings, and you know you got to get rid of them. But you can maintain right view where you understand these painful feelings are being caused by my own cravings, desires, attachments, but there's so much problems here in this relationship, it's better for me to move on. And I would like to move on out of this relationship. And I know that I still need to do work in order to eliminate my cravings, desires, attachments, but I can't do it while I'm in this relationship. I'm too attached. And because of my cravings and holding on to this relationship, I need to move on. And that's going to help me to let go of my cravings. So you, from the outside looking in, it can look exactly the same. It's a person choosing to end a relationship and move on. But what's going on in your own mind determines whether it's aversion or not. If you're pushing this person away because you think that they're the source of your painful feelings and that's going to solve your problems, that's aversion. But if you understand that these painful feelings are coming from your own mind, you need to work on your cravings, desires, attachments, and you're just choosing out of wise decision making to move on from this relationship. That can be a wise decision. But from the outside looking in, it can look very similar.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. You have a question?
So you were saying a lot of things about expectations.
Mm-hmm.
Does that mean that we should not have any expectations of others?
Yes, that's true. If you, as soon as you expect something from somebody, you're setting yourself up. You're sabotaging yourself. You're going to have discontent feelings at some point, because if that person meets your expectations, you're going to get happy and excited, but they can't meet your expectations permanently because of the universal truth of impermanence. Not only can't this being not meet your expectations permanently, but your expectations are going to change. And as your expectations change, this person doesn't even know. So if everybody was around you trying to meet your expectations, they're not going to feel comfortable because they're just doing things your way, right? And you're not going to feel comfortable because they can't meet your expectations permanently. So if you just understand everybody's making their own decisions and whatever they decide is up to them, and then you make the decisions that's best for your life, then you can maintain your contentedness because you don't want anything from anybody. You don't expect anything from anybody. There's certain things that we do as, human beings where we do things with each other. But as soon as you expect it, that's where the problems come in. So I'll give you a common example. So some people say, well, what about like politeness and friendliness and respect in a relationship? Like, shouldn't I expect that from my friends and my family? The answer is no, because as soon as you expect them to be polite, kind, friendly, and respectful, you'll be happy when they do that. But when they don't do that, you'll be angry and sad and frustrated and irritated and feel all kinds of other painful feelings. But you can understand that this being, your mom, your dad, your brothers, your sisters, your life partners, your friends, your boss, your coworkers, these people are all imperfect beings, just like you. they're imperfect unless they're enlightened. If they're enlightened, they're going to be functioning perfectly. But if they're unenlightened, which the vast majority of the world is, they're going to be functioning in an imperfect way. And that means that they're having just the same struggles and difficulties in life as you are. So if you cast your expectations onto this person that they have to be polite, kind, friendly, and respectful in all situations, or else you can't like them or you're going to get frustrated, then you're setting yourself up for discontentedness. You're going to sabotage your mind because you know that you can't, at this point in time, be polite, kind, friendly, respectful in all situations. So why would you expect somebody else to do it? This is the interesting thing about the unenlightened mind. Because of the ego, the mind's like, well, I want mom and dad to be polite, kind, friendly, respectful all the time, but you're not polite, kind, friendly, respectful all the time. So the mind will expect things from others that you can't even do yourself. Right? And this is like how the mind is deluded or has misunderstanding or confusion or this lack of wisdom, that it will expect other people to do things that you can't even do yourself. And as soon as you set up expectations for other people, then they're going to sometimes not be able to fulfill those and your mind will get painful feelings. So it's a matter of understanding that relationships, to be successful, they need politeness, kindness, friendliness, and respect. That's what you need as a fundamental building block in your relationships. And that's what you would like to work towards. All the while realizing that people in your life are not going to be able to be polite, kind, friendly, respectful in all situations, as long as they're unenlightened. An enlightened being can be polite, kind, friendly, and respectful in all situations. But unenlightened beings are going to have a really hard time to do that. So that's why, like with your parents, your siblings, your life partners, people like this, your brothers and sisters, you probably find those relationships to be the hardest, because your mind's attached and you're holding on and you have expectations of them and you want them to be a certain way. But when you meet somebody out on the street, you don't have any expectations of them. So your relationship goes wonderful. And this is why you might think that the problem is your parents or your siblings or your life partner, because your mind is wanting them to be a certain way. They're not that way. You get angry and you think that they're the problem. But when you're out with your friends, everything's just fine, perhaps, because you don't have any expectations of them. So when you have expectations and you allow them to come into your mind, that's where you sabotage your ability to have harmonious relationships. So you would like to look for politeness, kindness, friendliness, and respect in all your relationships, and you would like to practice that, being polite, kind, friendly, respectful, realizing that it's going to be very challenging in situations where people are having craving, desire, attachment. So if you met someone who was brand new, and in the first 5 or 10 minutes or the first couple of days, they started being impolite, unkind, unfriendly, and disrespectful, you know, like, this might not be the best relationship for me, right? But if you have a friend who you guys have been friends for many months or many years, and it's like they do something and they're impolite, unkind, unfriendly, or disrespectful, it's like, all right, you know, that's understandable. You know, they've shown me enough politeness and kindness. They're struggling right now, and you can just be understanding. And maybe when they think about it for a few days or a few weeks, maybe they come back to you and apologize. Even though if your mind got angry, it was from your own mind craving for them, expecting them to be polite and respectful. But they are not required to apologize. If you expect them to apologize and they don't apologize, you'll be angry, you'll be frustrated. But if you go through life just realizing that, hey, everybody's making their own decisions, and I'm just going to love people as they are. Just love people as they are, unconditionally, not wanting or expecting anything from them, but just understand that they're struggling, they're having difficulties in the world just like you. And now you're going to go through the world and not expect everybody to be a certain way, realizing that you can love the person while disagreeing with their choices and decisions. Has anyone in here agreed with 100% of the things their parents have done? Anybody? Have you agreed with 100% of everything your parents have ever done? I've never seen anybody raise their hand before, right? Of course, because our parents have had different experiences. Our brothers and sisters have had different experiences. Our friends and coworkers, they've all had different experiences. So they're going to make different decisions than us. So if we can only love people and we can only get along with people who do things our way, there's only one person in the world that you can love. Do you know who it is? Yourself. And you might even find that hard to do sometimes, is love yourself, right? So you need to be able to separate the choices and decisions that someone makes from the person themselves. So love the person. Have a genuine interest in seeing them be well. That's what love is, a genuine interest in seeing them be well. And then understand their choices and decisions are going to be different than yours. My wife makes decisions very differently than me. My son sometimes makes decisions very differently than me. He's probably the only being in the world that is so similar to me. He makes a lot of decisions very similar to me. But even still, he makes decisions differently than me sometimes. So you separate the choices and decisions, just realize like, hey, you're going to disagree with people's choices and decisions, but you can still love the person. Have a genuine interest in seeing them be well. And that way you can love everybody. You can just have a genuine interest in seeing everyone be well and just realize they're going to make decisions differently. But if you have expectations, you can only be happy when people do things your way. And that's going to sabotage your ability to have love for everybody. Mm-hmm. Christopher, you have a question?
Yeah, thank you, David, for the teachings. In your last lesson, we were learning about what enlightenment or the enlightened mind is, and I was reflecting on it. And what I understood was that it was the state of feeling better, feeling good, feeling peaceful. I think you use lots of different words to sort of describe the state, the individual state that we have. And then the second part is that we act better in the world. Use lots of descriptions of it: act kinder, more generous, more peaceful, without judgment. But what I understood is what it amounts to is a way that we feel and then a way that we act. Is that accurate, or is there more to it? After I've reflected and read in your books more, it almost seemed too simple, what I came to.
Yeah, it's best to think of these teachings in a very simple way. What people have done over the years is made them more and more complex, and this is why we don't see people getting to enlightenment, because they've changed what the Buddha taught. But at the core of his teachings, one of the things that I think makes them so profound is that they're so simple. They're so straightforward. He's taken human psychology and he's boiled it down to a common denominator that the average person can understand. So yes, it is that your mind or your mental state is a certain way: peaceful, calm, serene, content with joy, cheerful, bright, uplifted, joyful. It's always in that mental state. And then you're also functioning in the world differently. You're making decisions differently because of the wisdom that you have about the natural laws. You're going to be functioning in the world differently. So this is what the enlightened mind is experiencing, and it has a different perspective about the world. The way that I think about the unenlightened mind is I think about it like looking out at the world through a dirty window. And when you look out through that dirty window, everything looks dirty, right? Like the ride in, traffic, it can look very dirty. The world is not functioning the way you want it to function because the mind has this certain way about wanting the world to be. What enlightenment is it's like cleaning off that window. It's purifying the mind. So now when you look out at the world, you can see the world as it is. Instead of the way the mind wants the world to be, you can see how the world actually is. Right. So yeah, you're accurate on that, but I wouldn't use the word feels different. There is a different experience that you're having, but by the time you get to enlightenment, you don't have those conditional feelings anymore. They're mental qualities that are just always present. The mind is always peaceful, always joyful, always bright, always uplifted. And you're not experiencing that disgruntledness. One of the things that we didn't talk about on Sunday is how an enlightened mind, you don't feel exhausted. Sometimes maybe by the end of your day, you might feel really exhausted. This is because of carrying around the burden of cravings, desires, attachments. When you get to the end of your day, if you've had a good day, it's because your cravings, desires, attachments were getting met. If you go out into the world and you want and expect things to be a certain way, and those get pretty much met throughout your day, you'll feel happy, you'll feel excited. But then if you go through your day and you're not getting what you want, you'll be exhausted by the end of your day because you're out there trying to get things done a certain way and they're just not happening the way you want. And when you get home, you'll feel utterly exhausted, like maybe you're carrying bricks on your shoulders or bricks on your feet. But by the time you get rid of that craving, desire, attachment, you're no longer exhausted. You need to sleep. You feel sleepy, right? But you don't have this exhaustion that tends to happen in the unenlightened state. So that's another benefit of having gotten to enlightenment. So there's lots of different things like this, and this is why you really just need to experience it to be able to really fully understand it. But the way you're thinking about it now is fairly accurate.
If I can ask a follow-up. So, and thank you, that makes sense. So some other faith traditions or schools of thought or philosophies have, I guess, what they would maybe consider a next level, like fulfilling your purpose in life, or self-actualization, or creating something that's beyond yourself. Is there anything like that that exists in Buddhism?
No, because that's all coming from the ego. That's like, I have some, God-given purpose in this world, and I've got to figure out what that is and what is God's plan for me, and now let me live up to that. That's like God having expectations of you. And this isn't true. This being, if somebody has an understanding of this being, it doesn't have any expectations of us. If we walk around with this, this desire to find our purpose, this is the mind looking for some significance in the world. And I am this person, and I'm supposed to be doing this thing or that thing. But then when that stuff changes, you'll be really shaken up by that. So if your God-given purpose, or you think that your purpose, leave God aside, but if you just think that your purpose is, I don't know, being a Buddhist teacher, and let's just say that person can't be a Buddhist teacher anymore for whatever reason, now they're going to be angry, they're going to be frustrated because their mind's holding on to that. Instead, we're really just going through life, eating, sleeping, doing things like this, doing hobbies and activities, spending time with people. We're just occupying our time. We're going to die at some point. We're just kind of sustaining our life here. But we can get to a point where we are actively involved in the community, or we have a certain job or occupation, or, we have certain hobbies or activities or what have you. But it's important not to see that as your purpose, because once you do that, you cling to it. And now when things start to change, you'll feel uncomfortable when that change is coming about. Looks like we have a question here online in Zoom. I'm sorry, I think this is Nate, but I can't pronounce your name in Zoom. Go ahead and ask your question if you like.
Want you to do with the chanting, because I don't know how to pronounce it. That's about all the questions I have.
Oh, okay. I'm going to start a 4-part series on chanting next Wednesday. So if you'd like to learn the chanting, you can attend classes starting next Wednesday. And then in the Foundation and the Path to Enlightenment course, I teach it in there as well. But if you'd like to learn it before then, I've taught it many times and it's been recorded. You can go to either our YouTube channel or our podcast, and you'll be able to see where I've taught chanting. You can just search for Learn Buddhist Chanting, and you'll see the recordings in there where I've taught that.
I've also was under, like what he was talking about, the school of philosophies, that you have a purpose and stuff. Once you let go of that, you're just completely happy. That's where I'm kind of at right now, where I'm like completely let go of that aspect of this almost control that I'm ascending, or, godlike thing, I've let go of that. And that's been the happiest thing. That's why I'm like, when I come to see you, it's just so simple. That's why I told you the first time when I met you. It's so simple. At the same time, hard.
Yeah, and the simplicity, it's challenging. We don't have to make it harder than it has to be, right? That's one of the things that happens, is people really make these teachings complex. And this is the ego at work, right? The ego is like, wow, if this is really complex and I can figure it out, then I'm somehow accomplished and I can be boastful. But the teachings of the Buddha aren't actually complicated at all. They're very straightforward and very easy. But if you're not studying the original words of the Buddha, you wouldn't know that. And that's what the vast majority of the world isn't doing. They're not studying with the original words of the Buddha. So because of that, it has become very complex for people. But in that complexity, that won't actually lead to enlightenment. It's the simplicity, the profoundness of the teachings of the Buddha, studying with his true teachings, that'll actually lead to enlightenment.
I agree with you. Thank you. That's all I have to say.
Okay. Thanks, Nate. I see your name is different there in Zoom. I had a feeling it was you. Okay. Any other questions you guys have? Yes, ma'am. I think it's on now. There you go.
So I am not English speaking, so I'm not. I don't know if I speak the right English, but I want to use example. Like I will always get nervous when I take exam, or the teacher asks me to show my dancing movement. If I get really nervous, I can't do well in my task exam. So I want to ask how to just focus on the exam itself, or focus on the dancing move itself, and don't be too nervous about myself. I don't care about what others' opinions. You said that clear your mind, but I don't know how to practice. Like I take a lot of exams, but I will always get too nervous. So I will ask you this question.
Okay, sure. I'm going to switch over to some visual aids here to be able to help me explain this to you. Let's go this way, right here. Okay, so actually let me get to a better slide. Okay, so to train your mind is to be able to first start with this Eightfold Path. This is the beginning teaching of the Buddha that you would need to learn. This is just a diagram of it, but behind each one of these factors, there's words from the Buddha that are going to teach you how to train your mind. It's not going to be a 3-minute answer that I can give you that's going to instantly change your mind. You're going to need to learn this entire path. And that's why I have these books, and I have the videos, I have classes, courses, retreats that you can attend. You can even get personal guidance. There's, podcasts and videos. You're going to need to learn each one of these factors to be able to train your mind, because what you're experiencing is that personal existence view that we were talking about earlier, that Galit was asking about, the universal truth of non-self, that your mind has what's called personal existence view. You're clinging to the self-image, and this is every unenlightened being is having this, where the mind is clinging to the self-image and is clinging to the self-identity, wanting to be perceived by others in a certain way. So you probably have a craving to perform. And this might be coming from your parents, that you had like an expectation from your parents. A lot of times this is what people grow up with, is an expectation from their parents to perform. And now they're putting a lot of pressure on themselves. They might have adopted the expectation in their own mind that they will perform to a certain degree. And if you fall short of that, maybe somebody feels embarrassed, or they feel less of a person, or something like this. This is where the mind's wanting to be perceived by others in a certain way. So you need to train your mind to let this go. And it's this entire path that you need to learn in order to be able to train your mind to let go. It's not just a couple of minute thing or a 1 hour thing. You would need to dedicate significant amount of time to learning and practicing this. But in doing so, that's the actual solution. It's a permanent solution. Once you get to the enlightened mental state, it's a permanent mental state. So if somebody didn't learn the teachings, they'll just continue to be angry and frustrated and irritated and embarrassed and these other feelings, anxiety, things like this over and over and over again. So if you would like, you can get this first book from our website. You can learn through our videos and our podcasts. You can learn these teachings, but it's this entire path that you're going to need to learn. And then you're going to need to put your mind in these situations in order to train it to be comfortable in these situations. Looks like somebody would like to borrow your mic.
I have similar questions about ego. I understand that we should not have expectation from the outside world, but if we have expectation for ourselves, like I want to make in this career or in this job, and that is the desire for myself. And in Buddhism, like we shouldn't have expectation or desire, and we should let it go. But actually, we need to make progress. And what should we deal with this situation? Just let ourselves stay in the same level, or how to do it? How to deal with this situation?
Sure. So anytime you put expectations on others, it's going to lead to discontent feelings. And the same thing is true when you put expectations on yourself, because you're never going to be able to meet your expectations 100% of the time. And even if you have a certain expectation and you worked really hard to get to it and you meet that expectation, you'll be happy for a period of time, but then your expectation is going to change. And now you're not going to be happy anymore. And now you got to work really hard to get to that expectation. So what the unenlightened mind is able to do is it sees two sides. It sees this craving, this desire, this wanting, this expecting, this longing, this yearning. It's an unquenchable thirst that the mind is just chasing and chasing and chasing after things. You can see that usually pretty readily. And then there's this other side that the mind can see, is this dullness, this lethargic condition, this sitting around and just not doing anything, not having any willingness to do something. You can see those two sides very clearly because you experience them. The mind is usually either chasing, and when you're not chasing, then your mind swings all the way over here where it's dull and lethargic and feeling lackluster, right? But what the Buddha is doing is he's inviting you to come to the middle way. What the middle way is where the mind has goals, it has objectives, it has interests, and you gradually work towards them, but you don't form your inner feelings on whether you accomplish that thing or not. Where when you have expectations of yourself, if you accomplish what you want, you'll be happy. But if you don't get what you want, you'll feel sad. But if you have a true goal is that if you work towards it and you get it, great. And if you don't, that's fine too. But now when you're not meeting your goal, you look at it and you say, okay, I didn't meet this goal. What should I do? Should I add more resources? And, that'll help me to reach this goal. Should I extend my timeline and give myself more time to be able to meet this goal? Or, you know what? I got 80% of the goal, and you know what? This is just fine. I don't need anything more than 80%. I don't need to go any further with this, right? And now you can maintain your contentedness and your joy and your peacefulness because you work towards it as a goal, objective, or interest, gradually working towards it and not forming your feelings based on whether you got it or not. Instead, you just work in that direction, right? So one of the things that I used to do is I used to set goals for myself that I know that there was no way I could obtain it. There was no way that I could actually obtain it. And I would just like to try to work towards it and see what I could do. And then when I would work towards it and I wouldn't be able to get to the goal, I would train my mind to not be upset or not be frustrated because, hey, I get 80% of the way. That's better than I was before, right? So this is what you would like to do, is not chase and chase and chase and chase, but not be over here where you're dull and lethargic and you could care less about what's going on in your life. Instead, make wise decisions to gradually work towards your goals and objectives, realizing that you're going to have to modify your goals sometimes, adding resources, extending your timeline, or just being content with the 80% and not forming your feelings on whether you accomplish that thing or not. Anyone else have questions? Okay. All right, let me see what we've got here. Don't see any questions here either. Okay, so what I'll do then is I'm just going to end by thanking all of you guys for coming. Thank you for coming to visit and being interested to learn the teachings of the Buddha. As you guys would like to learn more, you're more than welcome to come here or join us online. We have Facebook, YouTube, and Zoom. And if you would like to attend live, we actually have classes regularly. You might have saw this as I was flipping through. There's, wait, where'd it go? Right there. There's classes Sunday and Wednesday at 9 a.m. or 9 p.m., and that's Thai time. We're broadcasting during that time. In the morning, I do it from here at the temple, and in the evening, I do it from home, from my house, and I just live stream it from there. So no matter what time zone you're in, there should be a live class available for you. And then we also have one on Saturday as well, and where you can't make the live classes, they're recorded, so you could just watch it at your own pace. And then we have various courses and retreats throughout the year, and we have all these resources, books, videos, podcasts, we have audiobooks, we have all kinds of different things. You can even get personal guidance, and it's all available at no cost. So if you would like to heal from what hurt you and eliminate these painful feelings, eliminate this anxiety and the fear and the resentment, there's help for you here. You just need to decide to step forward and ask for that help. And I'll plug you into the resources and the help that you need. You just need to decide that you're ready to get rid of these painful feelings and you're done with the anger. You're done feeling miserable, and you would like to get to this better way of life that the Buddha taught. So if you'd like to do that, I'm here to help you. And you're welcome to attend any of these classes, courses, and retreats. So again, thank you for coming, and perhaps I'll see you guys in one of these future classes. Be well and take care. Have a wonderful day. Sawadee krap. Sawadee krap. Thank you again for watching. Enjoy your meditation. Look forward to seeing you online and answering any questions that you might have. Thank you so much.